House Majority Leader and Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise joins me by phone. Good evening, sir. And tomorrow you may have a guest in the House, as the Speaker just said, which is the President-elect of the United States. Before he meets with President Biden, what are you going to tell the President-elect?
Well, Greta, great to be back with you. And really, we're going to be listening to the President and congratulating him. I mean, you're going to see a lot of happy faces celebrating the fact that we get a rare opportunity, Greta, to get this country back on track. And you know, look, so many of us who joined President Trump on the campaign trail, I got to go campaign with him a few times, and, you know, as recently as this past Sunday, you know, he had a very specific message to the American people. He talked about securing the border and lowering inflation and food prices and gas prices and, you know, and just countering all this crazy far-left woke agenda that has ruined this nation and bringing back the greatness of America, making America great again. And I think you're just going to see a lot of excited people that are ready to go to work for President Trump and the American people starting in January. That's what I expect tomorrow morning.
Well, it's much easier to be, I've had this conversation with Speaker of the House many times, if you have a margin of 25, 30 seats, it's a lot easier to get your agenda rolling. You have a narrow margin. Plus, you've got the problem where Lee Stefanik, Congressman Republican, is going to be UN ambassador, and Mike Waltz is going to be National Security Advisor. Are those two seats safe, and how soon will they be filled in special elections, do you think?
Yeah, they're both safe. I'm so proud of Elise. I've been talking to her for a while about the opportunity to serve as UN ambassador if she was so chosen, which she was by President Trump. And I think she's going to do a great service to President Trump and the nation in that role. But it is a safe Republican seat. The law mandates that Governor Hochul has to call a special election within, I believe, 70 days of it becoming vacant. And there's no party primary. The party leaders pick their nominees. So it's going to be a quick process, meaning we'll get a replacement soon. You know, as far as Florida goes, they have a similar law with Ron DeSantis having the opportunity to call that election, I think, within 60 days for the Waltz opening. And, you know, we know Ron is going to do everything in his power to fill that, to get that seat filled quickly. So, look, I feel real confident in the ability to get those spots. But it means for a few months, maybe 2 months, 3 months, we might have a smaller majority, but we've been there before. You know, we are at a 4-seat majority today. We were down to a 1-seat majority at the beginning of this year. We still got our agenda moved. We've got some big things to do early next year, Greta, in the first 100 days, a very bold, conservative agenda that, you know, I've talked to President Trump about what that would look like. You know, you've heard him on the campaign trail talking about what he wants to do, energy independence, border security, tax reform.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. One of the other things, though, before we even get to the new Congress, is that there is, I think, a December 20th deadline on funding the government, which is, you know, always seems to hit us in the month of December with these continuing resolutions. Is there progress trying to resolve that so we can have funding for the government?
Yeah, you know, that conversation needs to happen soon. You know, if you go back to 2017, the last time President Trump came in to the White House, there was a similar situation where government funding wasn't finished by the previous Congress, and some of that was dumped on him, and it kind of delayed his administration. It held him back from doing some of the things he wanted to do early off. And you can go look those first few months, you know, Congress and the president weren't able to get any real victories in those first few months because he was bogged down with helping resolve last year's business, you know. So hopefully we get this worked out. And he comes in with a clean slate, a fresh slate, where he can move his agenda in those first 100 days. And I think you'll see a lot of effort to do that.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to watch. And then you won't lose those 2 seats on the issue of the continuing resolution, at least until January. So you've got at least a 2-people margin, which is not a whole lot, but 2 more than you would otherwise have.
Better than being in the minority, right?
Yeah, well, it's always better to be in the majority. Anyway, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, thank you for joining me, sir.
Great being with you, Greta. Take care. God bless.